Thanks again for tuning in to more NFL playoff talk on the OFN Today as the divisional round of the NFL playoffs begin on Saturday. Marc Lawrence of Covers.com and I will preview all 4 games with analysis, key trends, injury news, odds, picks, and more as the OFN Today for this Wednesday, the 9th of January, 2019, starts now. This edition of the OFN Today is brought to you by ourlads.com and Covers.com. Covers.com features live scores, stats, and odds, and is considered the most convenient and entertaining source for sports news and facts, with over 45 million visits a year. All right, and this, of course, is a peak time of year for Covers and for football fans nationwide, as we've got 4 big games, 2 Saturday, 2 Sunday, as we welcome in Marc Lawrence. And Marc, we talked about the Dogs last week being really good plays as far as whether you want to talk about them in games or as Super Bowl futures, and sure enough, we had 3 dogs win outright, and 1 dog, depending on where you got them, pushed the point spread. So it was a pretty doggy weekend last weekend. So we weren't surprised.
No, that's the way wild card games have worked out. And in fact, it's been 2 years in a row now that a dog has not lost in the opening wild card round of football games.
Wow.
So that trend continues. But when you get into the divisional round, it's almost at the opposite end of the ladder. And in fact, favorites have been so good in these divisional round games that I'm making this statement most of this week that I think I would rather have a root canal than I would have to handicap the divisional round games because of my love for dogs and their lack of success in these rounds.
Well, how about, though, if we were to – because what is it? It's been like 5 years now that we've been on this top 2 seed run, right? So what if we were to go back pre the 5-year period when because we had that run about again, it's probably somewhere between like 15 years ago and 5 years, so somewhere like there, where we were getting a ton of lower seeded teams winning and wild card teams making the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl and all that kind of stuff. And then that stopped about 5 years ago. And so I think, and I understand we wanted to look at last year, and I think that's a good thing. But even if we just separate, okay, it happened last year, it happened this year, I want to separate that. I want to just say, you know what, I think this year is more like what we saw 6-7 years ago when those first weekend teams actually made runs. That's how I want to look at this season, because I think that's the way it's going to go.
Well, it depends upon, again, which pair of glasses you're going to look at this divisional round from. And the reason I'm saying that is if you look at the home teams in the NFL divisional round playoffs that are rested with the week of rest for these games,
okay,
all 4 of these home teams have regressed the second half of the football season.
Yes.
All 4 of their opponents are on the come. They all are improving. So, the combination of those 2 makes for what I would consider to be a wobbly situation for these home teams here. They're going to need to step up and play back to their old form as opposed to their current form, and they're going to have to hope that the opponents revert back to where they started the season as opposed to the way they're playing now. So that does hold light for the possibility of underdogs having some success this particular weekend. But there are situations that are still tried and true. And
sure,
point spreads aside, whether they're favorites or whether they're dogs, they still hold up in the NFL divisional playoff rounds.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we might be in the beginning stages of another 5-year trend of dogs, of wild card teams making runs and winning Super Bowls. That's possible, but that's the trick, is not knowing until this weekend's over, and that's why it's not so easy. So that's why you've got a headache. And but I'm going right. I'm sticking with the dogs, and I'm sticking with the dogs because it's not just the fact that the favorites haven't been particularly playing all that well down the stretch, but it's who they are. It's the Rams and how they disappointing in and out last year of the postseason, and they're still the key components. The coach and the quarterback haven't won the big one yet, and then you take a look at the Chiefs. I mean, how many times do they lose at home in the playoffs? I mean, seriously. I mean, they don't even win playoff games. So, I mean, come on. Are the Patriots aging before our eyes? And what we saw the last 2 weeks of the season was a mirage because it was the Jets and the Bills. And we're going to get the proof on Sunday that the end is now for the Patriots. And then the Saints, you would think, would be the most comfortable home playoff team, top seed, but they just happen to be playing the defending Super Bowl champs who seem to be just playing great football again whenever Nick Foles is behind center. They just can't lose as a playoff dog. So that's the reason why I feel pretty good about it's not just that, it's the dogs, like you said. Dallas has won 8 out of 9. Colts have won 10 out of 11. Chargers are 7-0 straight up. ATS last 7 on the road. And you got the Eagles. So that combination, I tell you right now, I'm going to be shocked, surprised, if at least 2 dogs don't win.
Well, I'll say this, that in 36 years of NFL division games, there have been a total of 36 underdogs that have won straight up. So that averages 1 a year.
Okay.
And so if we get our 1 game this year, I think it would be right on par. If it's 2, I would largely attribute that to what we opened the conversation with, the fact that these favorites are in regression and the opponents are moving forward. So we could well see, I think the over-under, if I would put on the amount of dogs that would win straight up, would be 1.5 going into this weekend.
All right. Let's get into the games. The Colts and the Chiefs. Chiefs favored by about 5.5. 1-5-1 ATS last 7. Actually, 0-5-1. Excuse me. Yeah, 0-5-1 ATS last 6 before the Week 17 game. Which, to tell you the truth, I'm not even going to count because I'm just not going to. Anyway, Colts, meanwhile, have won 10 out of 11, as I've said, and they looked really good. They were the most impressive team to start the weekend, and it lasted all the way through as far as the dogs and what they did, because you just get the feeling that even in the second half they didn't do anything, that if they had to do something, that they would have. But anyway, a really good start for them. And you know what? I was kind of happy that they didn't destroy Houston in the second half, because I think people, as much as they might have been impressed with the Colts, there were a lot of people who kind of slammed Houston. And I think it's good. Go ahead, slam Houston, because I think the Colts are the team that really deserves the credit. And now they're playing this Chiefs team. As I said, they just don't win home playoff games. And Andy Reid is not the same coach when he is coaching favorites as he is when he's coaching dogs. And you've got an inexperienced postseason quarterback to boot. You got a defense that pretty much can't stop anybody. So that's usually not a good recipe for the postseason. So yeah, I mean, I think the Colts are a tremendous dog. 2-1 straight up money line dog. I mean, yeah, 6 points would be nice. I got no problem with the points as well, but the money line is also juicy.
Well, all points well taken. I think the only caveat there is the fact that there is a negative to the Colts this week that a lot of people want to overlook and don't want to acknowledge, and is the fact that this will be, for the Indianapolis Colts, coming into this football game, their 3rd consecutive road game in a row. And that has really been a death knell for teams in the National Football League playoffs, playing 3 games in a row on the road. These teams are just 13-40, 6 straight up, and 20, 37-2 against the spread since 1980. So they've not fared well, have teams playing 3 in a row on the road. You've got, by the way, not only the Colts, but the Chargers and the Eagles all doing just that this week, which might also end up making it a little bit more difficult for these dogs to end up having to fare well, given the fact that they've only won 13 of the last 59 games straight up in this particular role.
All right, and then on Saturday night, Dallas is almost a 3-1 money line play. They've won 8 out of 9. See, the Rams are like the Patriots. They won their last 2 games to kind of get some good feeling going into the postseason. But before winning those last 2 games, both the Patriots and the Rams didn't look particularly good, and both of them didn't particularly play anybody good to end the season when they won those 2 games. So, look, Gurley's back. How effective will he be? Will he re-injure himself? These are all these are the definite things that you have to throw in there. Look, this ain't no home field advantage too. So scrap that. I can bet you're gonna have more Dallas fans there than LA Ram fans. I'm gonna bet you that, and I might win that bet. So I don't care. There's no home field advantage here. It's a neutral field. And I don't know if that would change. I don't know. Maybe Vegas has already thrown that into the point spread. I know how smart they are, so maybe they have. But anyway, Cowboys are not only hot down the stretch, but now they've got a playoff win under their belt. So just talk about a confident group that's a dog with nothing to lose against a team who has worked the entire offseason to get back to this point in time to make sure they don't lose this game. You tell me where the pressure's on.
Well, the pressure's clearly on the LA Rams in this football game here. But I will say this: I think we're going to see more Rams fans in the crowd than we've seen all season long, if for no other reason, because the LA people love to be
homers.
They love to be in the scene.
Yeah,
that's
true.
In the playoffs.
Right? Yeah.
So they want to be seen in the playoffs.
Uh-huh.
So, but nonetheless, the bottom line here is, if you're looking at the Rams, you're looking at a team that's struggled at home behind Jared Goff. He's only 6-12-1 to the spread in his 12 games at home. So, laying points at home has not been has been a good role for the Rams with Jared Goff as a quarterback. The other side of the equation is there's a nasty trend in there. Teams that are in this round who allowed 30 or more points to a division opponent in their previous game are just 2-14 to the spread. So that's against the Rams as well. But what works in the Rams' favor here is that one, the Cowboys have lost 7 straight playoff games in a row. They're a little bit like Kansas City at home on the road. They're just as bad. And when the Cowboys lose a playoff game, they don't cover a point spread. They don't find a way to hang numbers. They're just 2-14 to the spread.
Oof, ugly.
Last 16 straight-up playoff losses. So if you're going to want the Dallas Cowboys, you're going to want them to win this football game. And the other side of the equation is that when you take teams from the NFC East and you have them travel out west to the NFC West in playoff games, opposite ends of the country in playoff games, the NFC West home teams are 10-1 straight up in these particular games. So, the bottom line here to me is I don't see the Rams losing this contest. Sean McVay's been terrific against sub-666 opponents in his career. He's 21-5. And if you see them winning the football game, you likely see the Dallas Cowboys not cashing the ticket. So, it's another one of those cases where get me to the dentist for that root canal, because another favorite looks like they may win a football game here.
All right. Then the Patriots will open things up at home on Sunday. And they're a 4-point favorite. This is the smallest line of the weekend. And the Chargers come in after looking like they were going to blow out Baltimore. They had to hang on in that one. But fact is, you could tell they took their foot off the gas and let Baltimore back in. They better have learned their lesson in case that comes up again. They do get Hunter Henry back. We'll see exactly how effective he's going to be. They've got to keep Melvin Gordon healthy. He has to be healthy. They're not going to go far in the postseason without Melvin Gordon. But they just can't lose on the road. I mean, what a road team they are. I mean, they don't want to play at home. I mean, at this point in time, the way things are going, they wouldn't want to. Where are they right now? What seed are they? They can get a home game if the Colts win. So I don't think that'd be good. I think they'd rather go to Indy if they both win. They probably go, can we switch that? Could we go to Indy? But anyway, they got to get past the Patriots first, and this has been the bugaboo team for them, like a lot of other teams in the AFC, and Phillip Rivers, and can they win this one? And look, I got to say, Phillip Rivers has a few more years left in him than Tom Brady does, as long as he stays healthy. I'm sure Rivers would like to get Brady one time before Brady decides to hang him up, and he may not have a better chance.
Well, this could be their opportune chance, But once again, another West Coast team traveling east back-to-back weeks, and in my database, it's only happened 2 times in the playoffs since 1980. You don't find that to be the case that often. That's the situation right now this week for the Chargers, who, again, are another team playing their 3rd straight road game in a row on the road.
Didn't they do that back-to-back East when they went to the Dolphins in that great great divisional round game, and then they lost to the Bengals the week after that?
They may have been one of those 2 teams. Okay?
Yeah, that was that. Yeah. That was that historic game, the one in Miami, the one.
Yeah, they may well have been one of those 2 teams that did just that.
Yeah.
But in the New England Patriots, you're talking about a team here that has just thrived in this role of playing home with the week of rest in the playoffs.
Sure.
19-3 Brady straight up at home in his career, and Brady in his career when he doesn't have to lay 6 points at home in the playoffs, he's 5-1 straight up with only 1 point spread loss. So the roles all fit the Patriots in this particular game. And there's another nasty stat here that, again, comes to the Patriots, and it's the fact that they were bounced out of the playoffs as a favorite last year. And you find teams who lose as a favorite in the playoffs one year and open up at home the next year in this divisional round playing with rest. They're 22-2 straight up and 18-5 against the spread. That's a pretty strong number, which also not only supports them, but it also supports the Rams in the game we just talked about. So,
okay.
You've got. I understand exactly how well the Chargers are playing. They're doing absolutely wonderful. The best road team in the National Football League, no doubt about that. And you ask them to a man about 3 in a row on the road, and they say, "We're not tired. Who cares about 3 in a row? We want to win this football game. We're not tired."
Yeah.
So, you can maybe throw those cases out. But the bottom line is you still have to beat Tom Brady at home with the week of rest or get ready. And that could be a difficult task, especially in this price range.
And then finally, the late game on Sunday. Again, the defending champs at the Saints. Rematch of the Saints drubbing the Eagles 48-7. Breeze 363, 4 touchdowns in that game. Wentz threw 3 picks. But now it's Nick Foles. And look, we talked about the Eagles last week, about this being more than just about Nick Foles, and they proved it. The defense stepped up. We talked about the defense. That this defense, if you look at it, there's still a few more injuries in the secondary overall. But there have been players that were hurt earlier in the year that are back. They're playing better than they have all season long. This defense is peaking. The team is peaking once again with Nick Foles. And don't forget, the Eagles were a banged-up team last season too. So they knew how to win a Super Bowl with not 100% health and a backup quarterback, and they're trying to do it again. So they've got all of this momentum. They got all of this confidence. They've got revenge on their minds. And then you've got the Saints, that one of these other teams that isn't exactly peaking. I mean, they won 3 out of the last 4 games. But let's not forget, they lose to the Cowboys. They had to come back to beat the Bucs in that game that looked like they were going to lose to Tampa Bay. They beat Carolina in one of the ugliest games of the year on national TV on prime time. They win that game by 3. And then they barely hold on to beat Pittsburgh because Juju Smith fumbles the ball on that last drive for the Steelers. That is not a hot football team. It's a good team. Learning how to, as they win, they did what they had to do, but they weren't the team that beat the Eagles the way they beat the Eagles, or even the team that cruised against the Falcons on Thanksgiving. Not the same team. Will we see that team on Sunday? Could be. They're that good. They're that well coached. But the Eagles are just it's one of these situations I got to tell you where I don't think there's no doubt in my mind that the winner of this game is going to the Super Bowl.
Well, it's hard to argue that they're not. I mean, obviously the hurdle would be the Rams ahead of them, but Philadelphia wins are going to be going with a lot of momentum, to say the least. But again, not to be a negative Nelly here, but
no, I mean that's the yin and the yang. That's what we want here on these handicapping shows. So give it to me.
Not only is this 3 in a row on the road for Philadelphia, it's 5 in the last 6 weeks. Okay, 5 in the last 6 weeks, and for them to get to the Super Bowl, they would have to play 6 road games in 7 weeks.
Yeah,
that could be quite a journey here. I think we have a better chance of getting one of those Teslas landing on the moon than we do that.
Oh, okay.
But the bottom line here to the Philadelphia Eagles is they're playing with a tremendous amount of momentum right now.
Yeah.
They've won 4 straight games behind Nick Foles. They won a football game last week that they have to feel elated about, with the double doink with Parkey and the goalpost. And they're playing some really, really good football. And sometimes teams that are playing good football in the manner in which they are, they're not even aware of the fact that they're on the road 5 times in 6 weeks.
No.
They just line them up and let's go and let's play some football.
Yeah.
The Saints coming in here, they're the number 1 seed in the NFC, and that's a pretty strong role for NFC teams that are number 1 seeds because they're 24-4 straight up in divisional rounds, 18-10 to the spread. 16 of those teams, by the way, made the Super Bowl. 9 number 1 seeds of the AFC have made the Super Bowl. So it's been very, very favorable for NFC number 1 seeds as far as paving a path to the Super Bowl. You've got Drew Brees, who's never lost a playoff game at home in the playoffs. He's made 5 starts. He's won all 5 of those football games. And you've got this deja vu course that New Orleans is on this year. When they won the 2010 Super Bowl, they were 13-3, the number 1 seed. This year, they're 13-3, the number 1 seed. All 3 of their losses in 2010 were against Tampa, Dallas, and Carolina. Their 3 losses this year were against Tampa, Dallas, and Carolina. They also beat Philadelphia in both of those seasons here. So if you like history, this could be an historic path to the Super Bowl for Dallas or for New Orleans once again this football season here. But to make a case for New Orleans in this football game here, it's going to go back to what we opened our conversation about. They are not playing their best football. They laid an egg in their last game of the season at home. Albeit with some starters on the bench, they still laid 7 points to Carolina and got drubbed in the football game. They've lost to the spread 3 straight games in a row right now, so not hitting on all cylinders are the New Orleans Saints, and they're out here laying a big number here. In fact, you go look at them in their loss at home against Philadelphia earlier this year. They laid 7 points when the Saints were cooking. Okay, they were really on that roll. They were in the middle of I believe a 9-game win streak. And they laid 7 points to Philadelphia. Now they're not hitting on all cylinders. They're laying more.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's up with that? And look at the way the Eagles are playing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But the reason what's up with that is the fact that this week of rest is really always impacted by the odds makers in the National Football League for these home teams.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I think that. Look, we'll figure it all out after the weekend. But I just think that because what we've got going on here are historical trends versus this season trends, and I think, and even just the way the season's breaking down, and little things that I think that we talked about, whether it's Andy Reid and Kansas City can't win home playoff games. And are the Patriots done? Are they really done? There are little things like that. Can Goff and McVay win a playoff game? There are things that are there that if all those things do work against those teams, we're not going to be surprised. So it's not like, the Rams went to the championship game last year and they lost on the last second field goal, but they're back. Patriots, this is them from 5 years ago. Chiefs, they won 2 playoff games at home last year, but lost the championship game. It's not like any of that. There are gaps in the trends, which goes back to our initial point we were taking with your headache to start the conversation, that it can go either way. You look at the historical trends that are going to favor all of the favorites in the home teams, and you got this year and a lot of different circumstances with these particular home teams that just are major question marks that can be explained if the dogs win. It makes it very, very difficult to handicap this weekend. I think at least 2 teams straight up win, three dogs are going to cover. I'm going with I'm breaking those historical trends.
You're going with the over 1.5 for the underdog.
Yes, I am. I'm going. You know what I'm just doing is I'm putting all my money on the dogs, on the money lines, and if I just win 2 of them, I'm in the. I guess I'm in the red. I'm in the red. I'm in the black. Whatever you call it.
Well,
what is
if
it?
you win one of them, you don't get burned. So that's a good thing too. I mean, you might lose, but you're not going to get burned.
Yeah. Right? If I do all 4 money lines and I get 2, I'm ahead. But like you said, I might be able to get 1. If I get the Eagles, I break even, or the Cowboys. I can break even. So that's kind of the way I'm going to go. But anyway, but we'll see. So if that does happen. I know how much you go into the historical thing. If the dogs dominate the weekend, then is that the way you go into it next year? Is that you go into it more of, okay, here's all these historical trends that have just been obliterated last year. It's very difficult for me to use those historical trends then and stick with the favorites next year. Or is it one of those things where, again, you'll have a headache and you'll go, well, I've got last year and then I got history, and I'm not sure exactly which way I should go.
Well, trends are one thing. What I call angles systems are another. But the bottom line here is history does tend to repeat itself, and something can happen. It can be an aberration if it happens oddly and oppositely one year. I can look for that to almost revert back the next year. But the bottom line is it's all on a game-by-game basis here, and I think
agreed.
the key observation here is what we opened the conversation up with. All four of these home teams are playing poorly, and all four of the road teams are playing well. So it could be the chance for these underdogs to make their mark this weekend.
Mark, I appreciate it. I know the Jets' job is open. I know that you're probably trying to get Adam Gase hired there. So
get him out of Miami, as far away from Miami as we can, so New York will be fine, yes.
Yeah, so we'll see how that works. I think it would be poetic if he became the Jet head coach the way I've talked about him this year, being a Jet fan, even though it's kind of looking like Mike McCarthy, which I'm okay with. This year, as far as the coaching candidates are concerned, I guess you can't really. I don't think you can go. I mean, the guy has coached up pretty good quarterbacks, and the Jets need a coach that can coach up Sam Darnold. I mean, he coached Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers.
But my retort to that is: have the quarterbacks made the coach?
That's the thing we don't know. So yeah,
that's exactly right.
So it's not. It just isn't a great year for coaching candidates. Let's just put it out there. All right. Appreciate it, Mark. Enjoy the football. We'll talk to you next week.
Hey, Greg. Have a great great weekend. Enjoy the games. Be well. Thanks.
Excellent. Thanks, Mark. All right. That's Marc Lawrence, covers.com. You could also check him out on his website at playbook.com. The founder of Sports Data University at sportsdata.com. We'll do this again tomorrow with Teddy Savransky of Covers.com. And again, we'll do it on Friday with Dave Koken of Covers.com. Right here on the OFN Today on the Ourlads Football Radio Network. For Marc Lawrence, I'm Greg DePalma. Alpha Mike Foxtrot.